Good evening, and I apologize for the delay. The board held executive session on a personnel matter prior to the start of tonight's regular meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School Board, or School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make comments should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. Public comment is welcome, and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee, or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be made available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones or any other devices. Ms. Hodges is excused. Mr. Morris, Ryan, is somewhat of my delay. He's in Tennessee away on business, but we have him on speakerphone for as long as he can avoid the tornadoes that are hitting the area that he's in. Would we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No citizen participation after a month and a half hiatus. Wow. I'll soak that into this evening. That brings us to our routine approvals. And our first routine approval is 5.1, the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We typically, and obviously 6 weeks off or 5 weeks off, can we, unless the board has an objection, and I didn't hear from anybody when we sent out the agenda, if we could consolidate 5.1 through 5.13, which is the ESSER required health safety plan. So in essence, the regular board minutes on 5.1, or agenda 5.1, 5.2 regular board minutes, 5.3 approval of the elementary student handbook, 5.4 middle school student handbook, 5.5 high school student handbook, 5.6 athletics handbook, 5.7 approval of athletic admission prices, 5.8 approval of the meal prices, 5.9 approval Central Penn Education Association agreement, 5.10 approval family navigator independent contract agreements, 5.11 Title I school-wide plans for elementary schools, 5.12 ATSI plan for Gettysburg Area High School, and lastly 5.13 on the one consolidated motion ESSER fund required health and safety plan.
So Mr. Hassinger, Kenny, over here.
I'm sorry.
Just so you know, there is a motion on the table right now to approve the agenda, which is fine, and you can move forward with voting on it, but you do have a motion to approve the agenda. So what we could do is just ask that those who made the motion and the second just renew or revise their motion to consolidate, as you just described, 5.1 to 5.13.
Mr. President, I'd like to add 5.2 through 5.13 along with 5.1 for the vote.
And whoever seconded would second, if they agree.
I would agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Question on the motion on the floor.
I have a question.
Yes.
The high school handbook is essentially the same as it was last year? As far as I could tell, it's the same as the one last year? Can we please make sure that we are enforcing the rules that are in the handbook this year, please? That's all.
Second question, Dr. Perrin, if I recall, there was some discussion in Harrisburg regarding meals and the extenuating or extending the free breakfast program for students. Any update on that?
Not from me personally, but if I
Okay.
receive something, I'll send it to the board.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Hearing none. Roll call. Ryan?
Yes.
Ryan's logged yes. Timon? Michelle?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I vote yes. (513) Human Resources Recommendation. May I have a motion, please? 514. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Question.
I'd like to remove the tennis coach from the coaching supplemental contract approval, please.
Just that.
You're referring to the head coach?
Just the head coach.
There's already a motion on the floor for 514. Wouldn't that have to be revised?
I would recommend that. So just the motions, just revise it to do the full attachments minus the tennis coach as requested.
Correct. And my understanding on a motion like this is the motion on the floor is to remove the head tennis coach from the consideration on the first vote that compromises is composed of all of HR. Would there not have to be a second and that voted on prior to we move forward or no?
So the motion is the full list. The discussion was to pull, but we have a motion on the full list. So that's sort of the Roberts Rule conundrum that we have. So we could table the current, or not table, we could withdraw the current motion and allow the request to remove one name, or those who made the motion in the second could just revise their motion to remove the head tennis coach. I'm not sure if I answered your question. I sort of, if the full list is on the agenda to be voted on right now. That's the motion on the table, the full list.
Or do we want to just rescind the motion and then
Redo it.
let Michelle ask her question before we make the said motion?
Yes, that's fine too.
So I'll rescind.
Okay. My goodness.
I rescind
We got
my motion.
Okay.
Whoever second has to. Tim, do you rescind your second?
Yeah.
Michelle?
I'd like to pull the head tennis coach from the human resources recommendation for fall coaching staff.
So is that a motion? I'm assuming a motion to do that?
Yes,
So we need a second.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So that just needs to be a second.
Yeah, I'll second that.
There will be no question related to this.
So right now, the motion is just to pull it. So just vote on
Correct.
pulling it. That's all I'm going to say.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's why I want to clarify
Gotcha.
for everybody listening, we're not going to entertain question on this because it is a personnel matter under this HR. So I will go immediately to roll call on the motion to remove. Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
No.
Al?
Yes.
Mike?
I abstain.
Timon?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
And I vote no. Motion is passed to remove that from that initial, correct? Hold on.
Right. So we have not voted on the actual renewal
I'm going.
contract itself, but right. So I think I would go to the initial list.
Ryan, we lost Ryan.
So the vote now the motion would be on everybody except for the head tennis
Correct.
coach. Yes.
Motion on the, may I have a may I have a motion for 514 minus the head tennis coach?
So moved.
Second.
Again, no question, it's a personnel matter. We'll go right to vote. Michelle?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
That leaves us under 514, the head tennis coach.
A motion to renew.
Right, a motion to renew motion.
Your motion is to not renew.
Is to not renew, correct?
Not to, the motion is to not renew the contract for the head tennis
Right.
coach.
I just want to make sure everyone's aware of the yes or the no. So the motion is to not renew.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Again, no question on the floor, personnel matter. Roll call. 1 second.
So yes is not to renew.
Correct. A yes vote is to not renew. Roll call. Michelle?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Jeremy?
No.
Tim?
No.
Al?
Yes.
Mike?
I abstain.
I vote no. Well,
It doesn't pass. We have to vote again. I mean, unless people's opinions change, and is Ryan available?
Hi, I am Ryan.
So frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't pass. So, I mean, arguably, it is not non-renewed at this point because the motion is for non-renewal. Try voting it again. I don't know if anyone's opinion has changed. It has not moved forward for action, so. I don't advise this, you could table it, but I don't advise that.
well, it's unfortunate because we are missing 2 board members this evening, and I don't presume to know their input because I have not had conversation with any board member related, those board members especially, about this motion on the floor today. So I can't even guess on where they stand on a personnel issue.
Right. It could stand as not voted on, right? So there's no yes and there's no no on it at the moment, and it could go to the agenda for
And
23rd,
this is
21st.
this would be permitted for discussion because we're not specifically talking about a personnel or a person. So how we would move forward would be, at least in fairness to not only the position, but in fairness to the other 2 board members, if this board here seems or is deadlocked, I'm not so sure the right thing is to allow the other 2 board members to weigh in. I mean, it's a board of 9. Unfortunately, we don't have all 9 here, and I don't know how they're going to vote.
Understood? Yeah, so, I mean, on that basis, you could certainly consider it non-action. It did not pass. And the vote would go, the contract would go to the agenda for the next meeting.
My hands are tied.
could try
because
voting again.
I can't publicly comment. My hands are tied. I mean, if we're going to be honest here, I can't, no matter how you look at that, and I agree with you, that's probably the best solution this evening.
What's the only solution? It just goes to
Yeah,
next meeting.
nothing changes. Just put it on the agenda next meeting and give board members the opportunity to weigh in.
That's all you do. Next.
There are no items for board action this evening. Informational item 7.1, James Geddes Lincoln Elementary project updates.
Sure, we have a couple guests this evening from Train. I'll introduce Dennis, and he can introduce his team members. And it's an update on the Lincoln and Geddes projects, the decision kind of timeline and kind of where we are with that. Welcome, Dennis. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Thank you, board members, for allowing me to be here. My name's Dennis Rumsey. I'm a comprehensive solutions teammate based out of Harrisburg in the Mid-Atlantic region of Train. With me is John Lynn, senior project manager with Train, and then Bob Musgrave. He's one of our senior project developers. We're here to talk a little bit about the Gettysburg projects with James Geddes and Lincoln building improvement measures. So with that, I'll kind of go in. The agenda I put together was just an update on the projects, our approach, the timeline, schedule, a phased approach, some of the budgets that we put together, not to exceed the timeline for the equipment. There are some long lead times with certain pieces of, as I'll call them, heavy pieces of equipment that require us to purchase or pre-purchase to assure project delivery. And then the not to exceed number that we put together for the administration and the board. And those are some of the agenda items we'll talk through tonight. The development process is still ongoing. So we've been engaged with our partners from the engineering world and the architectural world, as well as Train and the district and administration. But this is where we're at currently. We did prepare a not-to-exceed budget that was established so that we could be here this evening and share with you what that looks like for both of these projects, the scope involved with the projects. The project equipment was defined because we're at 75% design for the projects. Train, the design team, and the contractors continue to work with the district to refine the project scope, cost, and delivery of the project. The final project scope and costs are targeting for the end of September so that we can move forward with the actual construction project authorization in early October. With that said, the Lincoln base project, we were asked by the administration to try and separate what the base project looked like from a financial standpoint, and then what some of the project additions look like from a financial standpoint. We provided in a package some of the backup to that because it's rather extensive scope, based on the work we've been doing with the district over the last time frame. So the base project at Lincoln is a complete HVAC system upgrade replacement on a holistic level. We'll be going from a unit ventilator type system to a modern VAV system, which will see some improvements in educational outcomes and things of that nature, energy, things of that nature. The building automation system will be updated. Lighting upgrade and retrofit to LED lighting throughout the building. Sprinkler system upgrade, emergency generators, and fire alarm system. The not to exceed budget range that we're at right now is around 18.9 for that portion of the scope. The addition to Lincoln. We were asked to look at, the exterior windows, caulking, expansion joints to replace and update that. Masonry on the building. Refurbishment of the pedestrian bridge, so we've been working diligently on that. The access path, some water infiltration issues at the classroom and retaining wall, and then some IT upgrades, PA system, clocks, things of that nature. So that budget is about a $700,000 number for all of those improvements. James Geddes, similar, HVA system replacement upgrade as well. The building automation system as well, upgrades. Lighting, again, retrofit to LED lighting throughout. Emergency generator, fire alarm system. There we're also undertaking administration reconfiguration, the offices, adding an ADA accessible restroom, bathroom, and the MDF room. And the base project that we have there is about 10.3. The additions are the caulking, again, similar to Lincoln, masonry, and then again, similar to Lincoln. We were asked to look at the IT upgrades, PA system, clocks, things of that nature to modernize all that. This slide really is almost an economic summary. Our projects are holistic in that they include all required equipment, material, installation, construction, project development, engineering, management, all required performance and payment bonds, permits, any rebates that are out there will work to help the district pull some of that. We were asked to put together that not to exceed budget. The budget here, 32.8, that also includes the roofing at both schools, which at this point we're looking at some solutions, options, but at this point that includes the coating with a 30-year guarantee through Tremco roofing. The long lead time equipment pre-order that's critical to the success for that heavy equipment. Think of the building chillers, the boilers, the generators, things of that nature that have, multiple month lead times to assure, that we're building that equipment or others are building that equipment and we have it on site, is about $3.6 million. That's not all of the equipment in the projects. That's just what we've identified through the selection process as large pieces of equipment that we have to get moving at the factories. So we were asked to share, here's the budget, not to exceed that, here's the long lead time equipment, which is a part of that $32 million, obviously. We were also asked to share what we thought, from a conservative standpoint, what some of the energy and operational savings might be, and it's about $3 million, very conservatively. We put some of this information together well over a year ago for the administration as we were working through that. And those energy savings are, you can see they're based on 3% escalation over 20 years, which is not applicable now.
Dennis, that not to exceed budget, that is base budget, extra items that you had listed there, and the roofs.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's everything. At this point, again, we're still in the development and engineering phase. Our goal is to try and bring that down further. So we have multiple conversations going on with the other partners, that the engineering partners and the roofing partners and things of that nature to impact that. So we're saying at this point we wanted to share, so that you could take action for the equipment delivery. This is that base number. It's not going above that. We're working hard to kind of pull that out. We've been asked to look at some different things, different options, and we're continuing to do that. I think when I get to the schedule, you'll see we have some time built in to continue to refine that. put this slide together. It's obviously a collaborative approach that we're taking here with the district. The district really is controlling a lot of the steps in the process as we move. Simplified procurement process, the shortened implementation cycle to assure the district's goals and outcomes. Some of the things we heard from the district were, single point accountability. So our projects come with 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranties, one phone call to make. So we stand behind that. We have a long track record and history with districts and whatnot to fulfill that. And it mitigates a lot of districts. When we do these things, these are 20-year long-term solutions when we go into a building. And when we come out of that building for the next 5 years, if anything goes sideways with our equipment or controls and what we're doing, it literally is one phone call for us to, train a large global company to come in and help you through that or take care of that. So a lot of districts that I work with almost view that as a risk transfer at that building, and they can get back on to, educating their community. So I put that little slide together. The next slide we're going to try and pull up. So these are some of the steps that we've been working through. Letter of commitment that the district executed on or about June 23rd. We've been going through some of these steps. So a lot of these on the top are completed. We're at 75% design. From an engineering standpoint, that's structural, civil, things of that nature. The administration, there's some steps up there that we've sat with the administration in the office, and we've looked at, final scope, options, design, and then that not to exceed budget as we've been working collaboratively put together through this. And that puts us here this evening to talk about what those budgets look like, the scope, and to give you a first read of this. The next piece really is me again saying that we'll continue to develop this throughout the month and into next month so that we can wring out as much as we can and come back with a very positive project for the community. We're looking for that again. That the 21st is that pre-purchase of the equipment so that we can get that long lead time equipment into the factories and ordered. Then we'll go through some train internal reviews. Projects of this size, a lot of mine, they're reviewed by the president of Train right on down. So we'll be going through that process in September. And then coming back to the district in September for some administration review on the scope and the contract. And then again throughout September for final reviews. The goal would be to get to the board on the 2nd for first review for the construction phase of the project, and then the final review on October 16th. The plan now is James Geddes, substantial completion in 24, August or so, 18th. Substantial, and then final on September 30th of 24. We'll also at the same time be working in Lincoln. A lot of work is required in Lincoln. Where our plan is to start a lot of that work next summer and then finish it the following summer based on the size of the school and the scope of the work and what we have ongoing there. And then again, the final solutions there. We think that's more of a realistic approach to accomplishing both of these projects. And I think that's all I had to share with you.
So Dennis, I'm asking the question more for information for everybody. So the decision points really become the next meeting on the 21st and October 16th, whenever the board is deciding what the final scope looks like. So at the board meeting on the 21st, we would need to authorize the purchase of about $3.6 million worth of equipment if we're committed to doing the HVAC, because that's boilers and those types of things. And then my assumption would be that as we move through September, Dennis, some of the items that are listed under the project, we'll put some dollar figures next to those so that when the board's deciding what to include or not include, they know what the big numbers are and what the smaller numbers might be.
Sure, sure. I think we can lump some things together, and we talked about sharing some of those numbers, because some of the things kind of tie into other things.
Sure.
You can't, and then I'll consult with you on what makes sense and what doesn't. So some of the additional scope, my advice would be, the cost to make those improvements is not going to get any cheaper in the next few years should you defer. And some of them, should be considered, at this point. But ultimately, you decide what you want to do with that. But it's going to be a collaborative approach, and we'll share with you what some of those things look like, and then you could make some decisions on how you want us to proceed.
So the action item on the 21st would look something like a motion to approve an expenditure of $3.6 million, but not to exceed budget of X amount for the project. And then the board, through the rest of next month and a half, can take a look and say, pull this out, leave that in, this much, this much.
Is that correct, what Dr. Perrin just shared?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
Those of you in the back of the room, could you hear all that? Dr. Perrin, it might help if you would talk a little closer to the microphone.
Are there any questions for Train's team or for us?
You may want to repeat what you said so that they have an understanding. I don't think any of them heard what you said.
Sure. So just going off of the timeline that's projected, so the major decision points are August 21st, which is a commitment to purchase $3.6 million worth of the large equipment for the HVAC project specifically. So boilers, the larger pieces of equipment that they've identified as part of the project. And then through the month of August and September, the board would have the opportunity to take a look at the scope along with the add-ons to say what do we keep, what do we pull off as we work towards a final approval and a final contract in October. I will point out that this does not include our own district costs for items such as like our custodial team moving in and out of the building, like those kinds of things. We would have internal costs for those. And also, as a reminder, given the bond, we have the ability to do the projects without impacting the general fund budget.
Just a question, what's the official, I don't want to say start date, but what's the start date for doing the major renovations? Is it going to be after school lets out? Because I only see a completion date. What's the date for them to actually start putting in VAV boxes and new boilers and all that?
Yeah, I'll let John, our project manager, come and talk a little bit about that.
So usually when we do a project like this, we'll identify things that, starting in March, we can do second shift to get a jump on the project. None of those things will impact the educational process, will impact the students or teachers. And if there are things that we are doing, we clean up every night and all that kind of stuff. So it's really penetrations through block walls, things like that. So then after the students leave, on or about June 1st, that's when the real dust starts to fly. And we will then work with the district. We'll have all this identified ahead of time, but we'll work with the district as far as when the teachers need to return, because they're going to need some extra time. They're going to need some extra time because they've had to move out of their classrooms to move back in, those kind of things. So that, all of those details will be identified, and we'll work with the district to get that done.
Right, and the policy committee, we do the district calendar every year, so we have the ability, when setting the following year's calendar, to make some adjustments as we need to be responsive to the project.
And we won't have any activities going on at James Geddes over the summer while this is going on, correct?
Yeah, we would keep it student-free when anything major was going on.
These they're very intense scenes for that 10-week period. And the team that we bring, that we do these year in, year out for districts, Train does about $1.5 billion worth of this work annually. So the team and the execution is very, very strong. We work together and identify those dates and those milestones, and then assure completion of those dates. We've never failed at getting students back in their buildings into an entirely different building, because the feel when they get back in is different than when they left. And when we make these building improvement measures, so we've never failed at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Board committee reports.
Mr. President? Mr. President, I have a brief legislative report. I think you'd be disappointed if you didn't hear me rail on charter schools a little bit. Over 480 school districts out of 500 districts have approved the resolution asking for charter school reforms. House Bill 1422 came out of the House in Harrisburg. It had unanimous support from the Democrats. There were 20 Republicans that did support that bill. Unfortunately, our two local guys, Dan Mao and Tornecker, did not support that bill. I have called them out publicly at a political picnic this summer, just a few weeks ago, and I did share with them I would be calling them out publicly tonight at this school board meeting. Their reason is, they gave a couple of reasons, but I won't get into that. It has moved to the Senate Education Committee. There are two gentlemen that are co-chairs of that in Chambersburg, Doug Mastriano. As I have shared with my board, but I would love for our community and our board to especially let Dave Argyle and Doug Mastriano know that we would really see in some way, shape, or form, even if they revise this bill to somewhat, to at least get it out of committee and get it voted on. The way House Bill 1422 is written, it could save Gettysburg School District slightly over $1 million. And it's not a perfect solution, but it gets us a little closer to the actual cost that the charter schools incur. And I'm not talking about Vita Charter School, who does things the right ways, and they offer things in the mission of what a true charter school would do, where they're offering dual languages and things like that. So anything any of you board members can do to make contacts, I think I've shared the phone numbers of all 11 members of the Education Committee. What concerns me a little bit is the rumors that I've heard that there are significant donations being made to some of our politicians in Harrisburg in the Senate. And I'm hoping, as my father-in-law used to say, that a lot of politicians are bought and paid for. I hope that's not the case, and that this bill will make it out of committee. And that concludes my report this evening. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'm going to jump back. I'm going to turn over the agenda. 7.2, the job description of the construction project manager. Jason.
Sure. As we've discussed, this large project, which is a combination of two elementary schools, there have been discussion both at the finance facility committees in the past, along with while discussing this project, about creating a position within the district to oversee capital projects. So projects like the one with Train, but also some of the things that we see just on the 5-year project that are significant spends. They aren't $34 million spends, but they might be $500,000 spends or $750,000 to create a point of contact to be present on location while the jobs are being done, basically just to basically protect the investment that we're making with the community's resources regarding the projects themselves. So look at a job description. Obviously, we wouldn't consider hiring and filling that position unless the project's approved. So.
Before the next meeting, can you or somebody, Tam, somebody give us a written job descriptions for the director of facilities that we currently have? Because I'm kind of wondering what in the world they do that we're looking at hiring somebody else as well.
Mostly I'm overseeing day-to-day operations, but we can share with you the job descriptions of that entire department. Director of facilities, assistant director of facilities, and this draft.
Any additional questions? Jason, anything under program reports?
I have a policy committee report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, so our policy committee meeting will be canceled for tomorrow. It was scheduled for tomorrow at 4 p.m., but due to items not being on the agenda, we're going to hold that on September 12th at 4 p.m. here in the administration building.
Go ahead.
Dr. Matzner, do you just want to share about today's activities?
Sure. Today, we kicked off our new teacher induction program. We have countywide, of all the districts in Adams County, about 45 new teachers that attended the program today. We'll be starting our Gettysburg specific induction program tomorrow. We have 13 new teachers that will be attending. Those teachers, both district-wide and countywide, will be meeting periodically throughout the school year, learning various topics, things that they will be able to use in their classroom. The district induction is going to take place for the majority of this week and then the first couple of days into next. So we're getting the teachers on board and ready to go. Thank you.
And just a couple of items. Our district's flexible instructional day application was approved by a PDE, so we're able to utilize the flexible instructional days for weather inclement days as needed again this year, up to 5 for weather. And we still have the 1 day built-in that we built in the past. Our staff returns August 16th. Our district opening for our staff is August 17th. And first day for students, Tuesday, August 22nd. Where'd the summer go? So we're excited about getting started, and there's lots to do over the next week or two.
Thank you, Jason. Our next meeting will be August 21st at 7 p.m. here in the boardroom. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We stand